This is a badly hyped story that involves flat-out lying. At the annual Supreme Court charity gala, a woman named Lauren Windsor drew Justice Sam Alito into conversation, and this became the secret tapes.
New developments about Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito's compromised ethics and open support and comfort with extreme far-right causes.
I don't know that we can negotiate with the left in the way that needs to happen for the polarization to end.
There are differences on fundamental things that really can't be compromised. Really can't be compromised. So it's not like we're going to split the difference.
Like, people in this country who believe in God have got to keep fighting for that, to return our country to a place of godliness.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you.
But Lauren Windsor is a fraud, a progressive activist posing as a Christian conservative to try to get Alito to say something incriminating.
To people who want to pearl clutch about this, please tell me how we're going to get answers when the Supreme Court has been shrouded in secrecy. Are we going to continue our tradition of secular democracy, or are we going to be led to Christian theocracy by this Supreme Court?
Clay, with so many shows treating this as a scandal, what did Sam Alito say that was so terrible?
Nothing. I hate the idea of going into any event and secretly taping anyone saying anything. You guys have probably been on the cocktail party circuit where people you don't know might come up and they say, hey, I watched you on this, or I listened to that segment. You kind of have a nice conversation to be friendly, but you're not exactly, bearing your soul with the person. It sounded like a cocktail party conversation to me. But also, there was no hypocrisy here. It's not like he said, oh, yeah, I'm on the Supreme Court, and my belief is that the Ten Commandments is the only law that exists anywhere in the world. I mean, if anything, I thought that the decision that came down right afterwards, 9-0, on the morning after pill that didn't grant standing was pretty straightforward answer that we don't live in a Christian theocracy and that everything is still subject to the rule of law. I think the Supreme Court justices in general have done a good job. I wish we'd do a better job of protecting them. I wish we'd talk more about the fact that somebody tried to show up at Kavanaugh's house and kill him, the fact that there are still protesters showing up in contravention of federal law and state law outside of their homes, chanting at all hours in public residential areas.
Let me get
to
Lucy
me,
in.
this is just part and parcel of not respecting Supreme Court justices.
Lucy, a Supreme Court justice can't say, I believe in godliness, especially when he doesn't use the word but agrees with what someone else says?
Yeah, sure. And I mean, of course, we know that these people have privately held beliefs, but we're missing two items here in the story. One is the contrast between what Alito said and what Roberts said. Lauren Windsor also engaged Roberts a lot. Roberts gave very good answers.
Yes,
Roberts
he said exactly what you wanted to say, that
Alito,
we should just decide cases, that other things are for elected officials.
He said something like it's a modest job. He said, this is not as tumultuous a time as you think. So I do think that contrast between Alito and Roberts is interesting. And the other thing that's really important here, just so everyone knows a little bit of context, Lauren Windsor's playbook came from copying James O'Keefe's Project Veritas playbook, right? And no one, I don't hear, Clay, I think you've had James on your show, right? Like, James O'Keefe does the same thing. This was a public event. It was an event, she used her real name. I understand she represented herself in a way that was different, but I don't hear the same people criticizing her tactics here, criticizing this playbook when it is executed the opposite way on the right, against people who are far less public.
We've actually talked about that a lot. Like, I don't like the idea of finding a pretty girl and getting a guy who's a producer at CNN to go out on a date with him, and then the guy's trying to impress the girl and trying to pretend that like he directs all CNN programming, and then you blow it up. We've talked about that actually on my radio show, Clay and Buck, a lot. I don't like secret tapes. I say exactly what I think. I think if people tape me secretly, I'm not encouraging it, by the way, but I think if you tape me secretly in any conversation, I would sound the exact same I do on this show and on my radio shows. And I think that's why it's important to be living a consistent life in that respect in terms of your opinions. But the New York Times, CNN, all these sources that ran to fall over themselves would never do this kind of reporting themselves. So it feels like a hide the ball trick to allow her to do it and then react to it when the ethics of your own organization wouldn't allow you to do it.
Well, I'll tell you, somebody who criticized James O'Keefe over the years, not for everything, but for some of the same deceptive tactics, which have been considered, back in decades ago, 60 Minutes producers would go undercover, but after ABC lost the lawsuit to Food Lion with an undercover producer,
right.
It really is considered unethical. So my question to you, Lucy, is this. Almost no one in the press is questioning the deceptive tactics of Lauren Windsor. You can say she used her real name, but clearly she was misrepresenting herself. Why is that? Why is that not at least subject to debate? Why are the media? Is it because the ends justify the means if it's somebody on the left doing it?
I don't think that's true that no one is questioning it. I mean, you showed a clip of her justifying it on CNN, right? It is not the case that no one's questioning it.
It wasn't exactly critical. They just threw it out there.
I think that we're at
almost no one is questioning it.
Okay, I think that we are at a point where we have had such a corrosion of how we cover this stuff that it is the incentives that exist in this media landscape. And I think it's true that mainstream outlets do not use Lauren Windsor's tactics, just as a lot of mainstream outlets don't use James O'Keefe's tactics, right? But they are going to cover it. And it is also true that it is okay to hold a Supreme Court justice to a different standard than we would to the standard we would hold Clay to, or a member of Congress. I mean, it is.
Thank God.
It is different.
I think Clay's at least as important.
You have
right, but I do think
it's a different job. That's what I mean by a different standard. It's a different job to be a Supreme Court justice, and I think that's apparent to people.
Yeah, it's got lifetime tenure, which I wish.
I would say, Howard, by the way, this all started when the Dobbs decision got leaked early.
Yes.
I think that really put the Supreme Court under the microscope in a way that it had not been before. And remember, we still don't know who did that. Amazing. All right.
Clay, enjoy the ball game. Clay Travis, Lucy Caldwell, thanks so much for joining us.
Happy Father's Day to all the dads, even Joe Biden.
Up next, the implosion at the Washington Post as British journalists bring a different ethical approach to our shores.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.